Over 90% of all chronic disease stems from this one big lie related to a lot of other lies that have taken decades before they were debunked and corrected. Before we get into the underlying cause of most chronic disease, let me share some other fascinating things that contribute to disease. Let's just take, for example, Crisco. It's an alternative cooking oil they came up with in 1911. It actually had to do with repurposing candles. A lot of those candles and lanterns used cottonseed oil. Someone had a broad idea. Let's use it for cooking oil. Get people to start using that instead of butter, instead of tail and lard. Out of all the things that destroy the heart, brain, tissues, and cells, trans fats are at the top of the list. There was never any safety studies done on trans fats back then. It literally took over 100 years to get these trans fats banned, or at least create enough public outrage to get people not to consume them. Asbestos. All the insulation in your house, we used to use asbestos. That took 90 years to get that off the market. What about DDT? It's a very, very toxic pesticide. That took 30 years. Yeah, the whole DDT thing didn't work out. But you know what's even better than that? Glyphosate Roundup Ready. Initially, it was used to clean out pipes. Let's use it as a weed killer. How about that? Then we have fluoride, which is still being used in the water supply, and it's in our toothpaste as something to prevent cavities. Do you realize where fluoride came from? The aluminum industry? Someone had this great idea. Oh, I have IDA. A great idea. Let's put it in the water supply. Let's use it to help prevent dental decay, and we'll get the American Dental Association to promote it. And I think now in certain states they're starting to ban it because fluoride does lower your IQ. Do you realize that sodium nitrate, the stuff in preserved meats like bacon and sausage, it was used to protect explosives? Sodium nitrate stabilizes gunpowder. You realize that saccharin is made from petroleum. They had a great idea. Let's turn this into an artificial sweetener. Then we have another product called Biosolids. Someone in the sewage sludge waste department had this brilliant idea to turn this very toxic thing into something that is very beneficial. They use biosolids in the soil that grows your vegetables, but I think out of all those products, the one that is most interesting is the dent corn. This is field corn. It's not edible, completely genetically modified, paid by your tax dollars, to the point where it is so cheap, you can buy a metric ton of it for $198. Let's turn that into feed for the cattle and the pigs. They've literally come up with over 4,000 different products you can make high fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, modified food starch, and most of the vitamin C comes from this byproduct from corn, not to mention seed oils. How many years does that have to be on the market before people realize that it's not heart healthy? It's severely inflammatory, and it creates a lot of inflammation in your body. There's been a lot of PR actions to make something that is naturally unhealthy to be very healthy. Seed oils are perfectly healthy for everyone. Just keep buying it. There's also the idea that grass-fed red meat causes cancer, which is a total lie. They put grass-fed red meat in the same category as processed meat. Of course, what about butter? We know butter is super fattening, filled with cholesterol, and that's going to clog our arteries. Everyone knows that. Complete lie. What about eggs? Eggs have cholesterol. I mean, I can go through the whole list, but let's talk about the absolute #1 biggest lie that has created the most chronic disease of anything. And if this was just changed, all of this chronic disease would go away within weeks. You ready for it? Carbohydrates are essential for your health. Your brain prefers glucose as a primary fuel. Our brains were designed to live on glucose. That is a lie. Most of the chronic disease in the U.S. comes directly from the overconsumption of these types of carbohydrates. It is the lowering of one's carbs that will produce the biggest health benefit of everything. This is why keto is one of the most attacked diets out there because it works. Eliminating type 2 diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, all sorts of mood disorders, cognitive dysfunction, and because most Americans have at least one chronic disease, adding the low-carbohydrate diet as an option for those people needs to be part of the dietary food guidelines. No one reads those guidelines, so why do we even have to have them? People ignored them. The school system, the hospitals, the assisted living, the military, the prison systems, dietitians all follow the dietary guidelines. And if a doctor steps out of the box and recommends a low-carb diet, they can be penalized unless the low-carb recommendations are within those dietary guidelines. I know the pushback is that we can't have a one-size-fits-all. We're not trying to do that. We must have a low-carb option. The current dietary guidelines actually create more disease than it eliminates. There is overwhelming research on the science behind doing low-carb, especially as it eradicates chronic disease. I'm going to put that link right down below in a little booklet that we created.